Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into the latest YouTube video. You already know what this is. It's the starts and sits. We're in week 10 of the NFL season. You should know the drill by now, but just in case I have brought in a new listener or two, what you're going to get from this episode, I'm going to give you guys my top two starts and sits for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and the tight end position. So let's go ahead and do what I always do and start with the quarterback. Yes, I'm going with the hot hand himself, Justin Fields. They're going against the Lions this week. The Lions right now, they have allowed the third most points per game against quarterbacks. They're allowing 21 points a game. They have been one of the worst rushing defenses as well. And we already saw what Justin Fields can do on the ground. He broke Mike Vick's single game record of rushing yards. He's throwing the ball a lot better. They have retooled the offense around him. Chase Claypool will be in the offense at least one other game. And I'm looking for Justin to continue to stack these games as he goes through his development for next year. So I think Justin Fields is riding a hot hand. And I think if you picked him up off the waivers, you're going to get the fruits of that addition to your roster. And I would definitely make sure he's back in your lineup this week. My other start now is somebody that's not so hot right now, but he is coming off a bye week. It's Russell Wilson against the Titans. I know people are really down on Russell Wilson. I mean, I literally have to stream a quarterback this week because Joe Burrow is on a bye, and when I was on the market, I saw Russell Wilson's name out there, and then I was like, I don't know, he's doing bad. I don't know if I should do this, but I said, what the heck not? I'm still a believer in him. I think he's going to turn it around, and I think he's got a great matchup where this passing attack in Denver can have a ceiling type of game for Russell Wilson. The Titans, they're allowing 19.8 points per game against quarterbacks this year. That is the sixth most in the NFL. The Titans defense, hint to the next section, they are really good against the run, but they struggle against the pass. So I think this is a game where, I mean, if you're looking for options because Joe Burrow or any of these other quarterbacks are on a bye, then also look at this too. We don't know if Josh Allen's going to play. It literally just came out a couple hours ago that Matthew Stafford has a concussion. Now, I know Stafford's not the greatest fantasy quarterback in the world, but he's got a really great matchup in terms of fantasy this week. And then Kyler Murray he missed practice because of the hamstring. He's day to day. So you got three quarterbacks right there that might not be playing Sunday. And then you got all some of the quarterbacks that are on a bye. So if you're out there looking for an option to stream, man, I'm rolling the dice on Russell Wilson this week. My sits, Kirk Cousins, yes, big Kirko chains himself. I'm loving what we're seeing from Kirk Cousins this year. The chains, the whole situation around him is awesome to see. I've always been a Kirk Cousins supporter. Not that I think he's the best quarterback ever. I just think people gave him too much hard of a time for his play over the years, even though he's been one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the NFL. With that being said, though, I would avoid playing him this week. This is not the week to stream Kirk Cousins. They are going against that Buffalo Bills defense. The Bills are only giving up 11.3 points per game. That's the third fewest in the NFL. It's going to be a tough matchup for that Vikings offense. So if the worst case scenario happens and we see the bad version of Kirk Cousins, you definitely don't want him in your lineup because that could easily happen. I mean, how many quarterbacks have struggled against that Buffalo defense this year? My other sit, Daniel Jones against the Texans. Now, this might be a name where he gives you a good rushing floor, right? And you might be thinking, oh, well, they're going against the Texans. The Texans' defense sucks. I think I said this. I think I might be reiterating what I said last week about Jalen Hurts, right? Hurts, he threw that one touchdown last week, but he didn't give you that ceiling performance because the Eagles were running the ball all over the Texans defense. That's where all the points are going in fantasy. And then teams are typically blowing them out where the quarterback doesn't have to throw the ball a lot in the second half, and he might sit at some point in the second half. When you look at it in terms of fantasy, the Houston Texans defense is quote unquote only giving up 12.2 points per game to the quarterbacks. That's the fourth fewest in the NFL. Do they have the best defense like Buffalo Bills? Heck no, not even close. But when you look at where you want to look at as far as fantasy matchups and getting your points, I don't think you're going to get it from Daniel Jones this week against the Texans. So again, my top starts of the week: Justin Fields against the Lions and Russell Wilson against the Titans. My sits: Kirk Cousins against the Bills and Daniel Jones against the Texans. Moving into the running back position, I got a bunch of guys I'm about to talk about. It looks like here, my top start of the week. I'm going with DeAndre Swift and Jamaal Williams against the Bears. I will admit, as a DeAndre Swift manager, where I have a lot of shares of him in my league, it's kind of been annoying with his little ankle injury he's dealing with. But I hope you backed him up with Jamaal Williams like I did. I think literally every league I have DeAndre Swift in, I have Jamaal Williams. And last week, because of the bye situation with 6 teams on bye, I just didn't want to risk the whole who should I play? I played both of them, and I think that was actually end up being the right move based on the only guy I could have considered playing in my flex in that league. But with that being said, they both got a great matchup to go off this week. They're going against the Chicago Bears. The Bears are giving up 22.5 points per game. That's the 4th most across the NFL. So you got to think, even if they split the reps, they can at least each get you 11 points, 11, 12 points, and maybe you get the guy that gets you a touchdown. And until we get any clarity on the Swift injury, I think Jamaal Williams is definitely a good flex to a low-end RB2 play going forward. And then if Swift's going to play, you just put him in your lineup because he offers you such a high ceiling. And this is a game where if Swift is healthier, which he should be by now, he should get more of a close to his higher type of ceiling play. But I still think Williams is a good flex play for this week. My other start, I'm going with the pair of running backs down there in Miami, the Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. against the Browns. Teams have been able to run all over the Cleveland Browns, and they're going to be going against Mike McDaniel, who comes from that 49ers offense, who knows how to take advantage of his scheme against weaker rush defenses where they can get their ceiling type of game. When you look at what the Cleveland Browns have done against the running backs this year, they've been giving up 22.2 points per game. That's the 5th most allowed in the NFL. So again, just like the pair of running backs I talked about, so these teams they're giving up like 22 points. So even if it's a split backfield, or even if it's like a 60-40 backfield, with that type of matchup, you hope the guys can at least get to 11 points. You want more than that, right? But at a base minimum, you're going to be pretty happy if your running back ideally gets you to 15, but they get you 11 to 13. That's at least a decent floor for you, right? So yeah, that's why I think both of them are a good play this week. My sits. Now, you guys have heard me say this before. This is a temporary expectations play. Austin Eckler against the 49ers. Now, you're not going to sit Austin Eckler in a redraft league. You're not going to sit Austin Eckler in a dynasty league. But if you play daily fantasy football, that's a name I would look to avoid putting into your lineups this week. It's just because they're going against one of the best defenses in the NFL, who's going to be coming off a bye, and they're probably going to be a lot healthier than what they were when they enter that bye. When you look at the fantasy numbers, they're only giving up 12.7 points per game to running backs this year. That's the fewest in the NFL. Now, again, you're going to play him in those redraft dynasty leagues, but I would definitely temper my expectations where if you get a floor game out of Eckler, it's just because the matchup wasn't there for you this week. My other sits, in case these are names that are still on your roster, I don't even know if either are worth it. But, there's obviously, we have 12, 14 team leagues. So, obviously, you're going to own, these running back names are going to be owned. You're just not maybe actively playing them. But if you were thinking about either Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray, or the new addition of Chase Edmonds against the Titans this week, I would look to avoid that for a couple reasons. A, with the addition of Edmonds, we really don't know how this backfield's going to play out, right? So it's how's Gordon and Murray going to handle the first 2 downs? Chase Edmonds is more of a receiving back, so he's going to kind of handle that passing role on 3rd and long situations, the 2-minute situations. So we don't really know how the reps are going to be split between these 3. Plus, you got to consider Chase Edmonds still has to get used to the new scheme that he's going to. So with that being said, based on that, I would look to avoid it, even if it was a decent matchup or a good matchup, because we don't know how these guys are going to split their reps. But like I mentioned earlier, the Titans got a really stiff defense against the run. They're only giving up 13.8 points per game to running backs this year. That's the 3rd fewest across the NFL. So again, if you're looking to play any of the trio of those running backs from Denver, I would look to avoid them this week. So again, my top starts at running back, DeAndre Swift and Jamaal Williams against the Bears, Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. against the Browns. My sits, Austin Eckler against the 49ers, and then Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray, and Chase Edmonds against those Titans. Moving into my wide receivers, the top start of the week definitely will be Chris Olave against the Steelers. This guy has been balling out as a rookie. He doesn't get the much recognition, I feel like, as he should be in terms of when you talk about Offensive Rookie of the Year. I know Dameon Pierce and Kenneth Walker are getting all the rightful talk, but I do think Chris Olave's name should be in that conversation. He is tearing NFL cornerbacks up with his route running ability as a rookie. And then when you look at the matchup for fantasy this week, that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, they're giving up 31.8 points per game to wide receivers. That is the most in the NFL. Now, I don't think Olave is going to get all those points, but you want to hopefully he gets a good chunk of those points. And I will say this too, if you're in a deeper league, if you maybe want to take a swing on a lower price guy on daily fantasy, if Jarvis Landry's healthy enough to play this week, that's a name to consider. And then also Marquez Callaway as well, because 31.8 points a game to the wide receivers, that just screams a lot of points through the passing attack for the Saints this week. My other start, feeding off what I was saying about Russell Wilson, where you can pass against this Tennessee defense, it's playing into that as far as wide receivers as well. So that's why I think we're going to see a better game than what we've seen out of Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy this week against the Titans. The Titans are giving up 26.4 points per game to wide receivers. That's the third most in the NFL. And like I said, I just got this feeling with coming off the bye, I don't know, maybe my intuition could be wrong, but I feel like we're going to see a resurgence from this Denver team and start seeing what we thought we would see out of them to start the year. And I can just see that passing attack get things finding a rhythm early against Tennessee, where you're going to see Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton finally find a rhythm and finally light up some some secondaries like we thought they would entering the year. My sits. One's a temper my expectation. One's a guy I would definitely sit. Devontae Adams, you're not going to sit him. I would never sit Devontae Adams. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL. But temper your expectations, and then Hunter Renfrow, I definitely would sit against the Colts. Now, everybody's like looking at me. I think I say this every week about these Colts, and it remains true. They have not budged off this number. People don't think the team's bad, but their defense is really good this year. And when you look at they're good, pretty good. They could be better. There's some things I want to see them improve on. But with that being said, in terms of fantasy, they're giving up 13.7 points per game to wide receivers. That's the second fewest in the NFL. Stephon Gilmore has been very solid as a cornerback. I could see him sticking on Adams at times. And where, it's just that the Colts defense, they don't give up a lot of like chunk plays. They keep everything up in front of them. And they don't really, it's been very rare you see them get beat deep on plays. So that's why you're not seeing a lot of points scored against for wide receivers against that Colts defense this season. My other sit. These are definitely temper your expectation plays, names to avoid in daily fantasy football. But Mike Evans and Chris Godwin against the Seahawks. The Buccaneers, obviously that offense is not the same. They are having their problems. Maybe they might have found something on that game-winning drive last week, and maybe that carries over into this week. But when you look in terms of the matchup, they are giving the Seattle Seahawks are giving up 16.5 points per game to wide receivers this year. That's tied for the third fewest in the NFL. And then there's the factor of this game being in Germany. I think it's awesome. Like, that's so cool to see the game of football spreading internationally. I'm looking forward to watching this game. This game is on at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, by the way, for those that are not aware of that. But anyways, these games have been in London, right? Sometimes they're very weird. They unpredictable. Things happen. It's that you don't expect to happen. And they're traveling further from wherever Seattle. Actually, more I'm thinking about, I wonder how Seattle did travel there to Germany. With that being said, Seattle and Tampa traveling to Germany is a lot farther of a trip than to London, right? So how does that affect the team's play on Sunday? We don't know. You look at the matchup. So again, you're going to play Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, but I would temper your expectations if you do. So again, my starts of the week: Chris Olave against the Steelers, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy against the Titans. My sits: Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow against the Colts, and then Mike Evans and Chris Godwin against the Seahawks. Moving into the final segment, as always, it's going to be that tight end position that we always try to figure out, especially when you're not a Travis Kelce owner, because that's basically it. Mark Andrews is hurt right now, right? So we don't even know when he'll be back, and he's been one of the only consistent tight ends with Travis Kelce that you can count on this season for fantasy. So you might be looking to stream a tight end this week. If you're looking to stream a tight end, there's two names. One's a guy that people have been saying to drop over the last 3 weeks because he has not been doing much, which I understand, but that means he's probably available in your league. Tyler Higbee against the Cardinals. I say this every week. The Cardinals are traditionally terrible against tight ends in fantasy. For who did they play last week? Man, it's falling from me. They played the Seahawks, and I said play Noah Fant. What did Noah Fant do? He had 96 yards and a touchdown against that defense. So yeah, they're giving up 12.7 points per game. That's the second most in the NFL. So if you're looking to stream a tight end, I would definitely go pick up Tyler Higbee and put him into your lineup. If you're looking to maybe you don't like a Tyler Higbee, another name I'll look at is Cole Kmet against the Lions. Cole Kmet is coming off his best game of the year, where he had the 2 touchdown performance. And I think he can continue that this week against Detroit because they're giving up 10 points per game against tight ends this year. That is the fourth most in the NFL. And obviously now he's starting to develop that connection with Justin Fields. As I talked about earlier, Justin Fields is playing a lot better football now. He's throwing the ball better. And I think that's good. Like I said, I think that's going to continue for Justin Fields. And if that continues for Justin Fields, it's only going to benefit Kmet going forward, especially when they have a matchup that is juicy like it is for him this week. Moving into my sits, guys I would look to avoid to play this week. Pat Freiermuth against the Saints. The Saints, they just like how the Cardinals have been pretty traditional, like, as one of the stingier defenses. One of the looser defenses against the tight end position. The Saints are opposite. They've kind of been traditionally good against tight ends. And then as far as this year, they're only giving up 3.9 points per game to tight ends this year. That's the fewest in the NFL. So if you got Pat Freiermuth and, if you've been playing him every week, that's up to you. If you want to roll the dice on him, I would look to stream somebody else, but I'm definitely avoiding him in daily fantasy this week. Another name, Dallas Goedert against the Commanders. That might be a name where I would say he's been pretty, he has his up and down games, but he's been one of the more consistent tight ends in fantasy. So I understand why you might just still play him in your lineup. You're not going to drop him to stream somebody. But if you have an option where you could put him on your bench and go pick up another tight end, I would consider doing that at least. I would definitely avoid him in daily fantasy. Going against the Commanders, where they've only given up 4 points a game to tight ends this year. That's the second fewest in the NFL. I don't know why that is. They don't really have the greatest linebackers. I mean, Jamin Davis is still a growth and still a project that's growing as a linebacker. Cole Holcomb, I'm assuming he's healthy. He's pretty solid. They don't really have the greatest secondary in the world. But now, more I think about it, it might be because they have one of the best defensive fronts, where maybe the tight ends stay in and they chip a lot to help with the pass protection. I'm just trying to give you guys a good football analysis on why I think the Commanders might be good against tight ends. I haven't dove into the tape like I should have. But with that being said, when you look at the base stat numbers, everything says to avoid him this week. So again, my starts, Tyler Higbee against the Cardinals, Cole Kmet against those Lions. My sits, Pat Freiermuth against the Saints, and Dallas Goedert against the Commanders. So yeah, this is this week's top starts and sits. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button, as I'm always trying to grow this channel. And go tell a friend to come check me out as well. If you have any starts and sits questions that I maybe didn't answer for you in today's video, hit up my comment section. I'll reply to any comments. If you have my social medias at Cody Talks NFL, you can DM me on any of my socials, and I will get back to you as well with any questions. And as I always say, if any of my friends or anybody that's got my number out there, you can always shoot me a text if you have any questions, and I'll get back to you as well. With that being said, I hope you guys win this week. Start stacking up these wins and locking up your playoff spot. Let's go get it. I'll talk to you guys next week. Peace out.